Welcome to Board Ghost, a story broadcast with games as the engine.
If living is a highway, then heaven is a bus stop. Been waiting for a minute there, but has it been forever? 'Cause dying don't agree with me. No.
We believe you're out there, hungry for stories for shared experience. We can't see you, can't hear you, yet we will play for you. This night's offering is a continuation of For the Queen. To learn how we generate stories playing games of For the Queen, go check out our For the Queen rules primer. For the Queen is designed by Alex Roberts and printed by Evil Hat Games. Alex also has a fantastic game from Bully Pulpit called Star-Crossed, great two-player game about relationships. So Alex is awesome. You should check out all of her games. So we're going to get into it. We're going to continue our tale with a new set of Queen. Our humble players, myself, John Holt, with me.
I'm Allison Wilgus. I make comics.
I'm Carrie Peach. I do too.
I'm Christina Dacanay, and I'm also here.
All right. So our previous Queen was,
I don't think we ever named her.
yeah, she was nice.
She sat upon the red throne and left a chaos, mourning, heartbreak, and some blood behind her.
And she was traveling with her brother and the captain of her guard, a master of hunt, and a spy master, in addition to many
Some
other
other-
persons we did not spend as much time with.
Some people.
I've set up our deck. I don't know if we need to go through instructions again. Is you guys good for that?
Yeah, we're good.
So we do have our Queen chosen. Who would like to describe the Queen on this card?
Carrie, you're like the artiest.
I take umbrage with that comment.
I think we should make John do it.
What?
Yeah, I like that. You do it, and then
Is it
we'll add
oriented?
fun details.
We didn't describe the previous one.
Yeah.
No, we didn't.
Well,
was-
to be clear, the previous card is a almost completely black silhouette of a vaguely foreboding-looking person, where you can see her crown, you can see that she's veiled, and you can see that she's wearing a very good dress, and that's about it.
Right.
And she is bathed in red light, and that's all you can see.
Backlit by her throne, kind of, in a very menacing way.
Yeah,
This is the mean hot one. And there are a couple of mean hot ones, but
this is the meanest.
yeah.
the Sauron of the group.
Yeah.
So this Queen looks like she is in nature. She's got a headdress, looks like an open lotus petal, and large earrings that continue that motif. And she's adorned with gold, or they are adorned with gold, and a print top and with tassels, which is cool. And she has bracelets and flowers in her hair that flow all through her long hair. And she's cradling / petting a some sort of lizardy, dragony thing. Anyone wants to add?
Did you mention that she has flowers in her hair? She does have also like these very large kind of bangles around her wrists, which are sort of interesting, and also a similar one around her neck, where it's like those adornments. Are they some sort of symbol of the confinement of her power? It's hard to say. She is brown skin and very dark black hair. It looks like autumn, maybe season-wise. I don't know if that matters, but
Yeah, I see what might be a green in the field behind her, in addition to the flowers in her hair. I'm trying to get a read on her expression and the tone she is setting, and having a little bit of difficulty, which I
Less
kind
murder.
of like. Yeah, less murder for sure. She's a little hard to read. I feel like she is a little contemplative. I don't know. I want to know what she's thinking about.
So, well, Christina, what is this Queen, or how does this Queen relate to? We're all a retinue of a Queen going on some sort of mission, which we all love her, as per the previous. How is this Queen related to the other Queen, or maybe not blood relation, but
I think this is the queen that we were going to meet, who shares a border with the Red Queen. There's an attack by a third kingdom, and I imagine she might want to investigate that.
Do you have a sense of how soon this is, how close in time this is to the ending of the previous game?
I guess it kind of depends on how, specific we want to get about what happened.
like were they both traveling to
a
like
neutral
a neutral
ground?
location, like a DMZ or some sort of like preordained spot?
I think that could be
I think
possible.
like a pavilion near the border, maybe.
Yeah.
Or something symbolically, anyway, kind of in the middle. But
So are we starting our journey then rewind in time the same point in time that the previous one started, or is this a mission after the
Well,
fact as the queen never made it?
I was wondering if maybe this is some years later and we are traveling to the same place again, maybe, but from the other direction, and then maybe over the course of the being all of ourselves, like the same people we were before, and that part of this is sort of figuring out why that is. We don't have to do that. There's
I
just
don't know.
that's the
At,
idea.
at least for me, I don't think I would want to be the same person, just
Okay.
because at least the spy master specifically was like so entwined in that.
That makes sense. I guess
situation.
I'm okay being the same person because I think there's like some interesting bad things to happen to her.
Yeah.
But
I
Right,
think
how
that's
did you end
totally
up
on the
with this
table.
queen?
I do like the idea of a time skip.
Me too. I think I'm drawn to that because I kind of like the idea of being a little more vague, of discovering more about this queen and this country's problems over necessarily just solving the mystery of what happened at the end of our previous, or like in detail what happened at the. I'm absolutely down for broad strokes, but I don't know. How are you all feeling about level of detail and specificity?
I like the idea of jumping time. Maybe this is like, it's not like going directly to what had just happened, but is a wars around these kingdoms.
Right.
And so we don't know exactly, like maybe it will be revealed what has happened to this other red kingdom and why this retinue of this queen, they're traveling there. But it could be any number of the turmoil of this kingdom having no head, or the head that returns is embroiled and bitter and worse
yeah,
than
okay.
before. Like
Got some
there's
ideas
all
here.
sorts of there's all sorts of things that we could be walking into that just could get revealed in play.
because one thing I will say, even going in, so especially if Christina's not playing the spy master again, that means that the only person from the previous retinue who knew the actual reason of why they were going to this other kingdom would be me, the captain, and nobody else would have known. So that's that would have been an interesting way to end, depending on what happens with the queen. There's a lot of room for good or bad things to have come from that lack of transparency.
And it's, we know there will be an attack, and the who is doing the attacking can also kind of be, if we set ourselves up, it can be as going towards the Red Kingdom. We have characters from before that could reveal themselves later if we wished.
Yeah, at least, I mean, because this is a collaborative storytelling game, I feel like, except for the people who are actually playing that same character, everyone else is like on the table
Yeah.
in terms of like being evoked. If anyone wants to evoke the spy master, they're welcome
Yeah.
to.
Hell yeah.
I sort of kicked off the prompt the last time. Is anybody? I'll let someone else take the first card as we get into.
Is anybody
Queen.
else going to play a different character, do you feel like?
I might just see what the questions lead me
Yeah.
to.
Okay.
Because I want to what I do like is we're telling the edges, we're drawing the contours of the queen by defining the whole that is she's not at the table kind of
Right.
thing. So I like to see where the questions lead in terms of
That makes
what
a lot of
character
sense.
will fill in that detail for us about our queen.
Well, who wants to go first?
I feel like maybe you should if you're.
Yeah, if you
continuing
know
on.
for sure, because I'm still. I think I want to play a different person.
Yeah, and
also.
let the question just
Yeah,
carry
yeah.
you.
Yeah. All right. What do you do to disappoint the queen on this journey? I think that my previous queen would have expected me to die rather than serve anybody else, which is a little bit arrogant of her, but not completely unreasonable. But here I am, the different queen on a different road, heading in sort of the same direction. Before we even started, she was already disappointed in me. I mean, here's the thing. She has a captain of the guard that previously served somebody else, which is a pretty weird thing to do when you think about it. Again, I'm still alive, serving somebody else. That suggests that maybe I didn't do my job correctly, doesn't it? And yet here I am serving her instead. I think that she expected a level of unfeeling professionalism from me as being part of that job. I'm going to trust you to do your job, and therefore I want you to do your job and do it unwaveringly. I think I underestimated how hard it was going to be to start up on this road again, going in this very familiar feeling retinue on a very familiar trip. And I have not been myself. I'm not proud of it, but I think that she's definitely noticed, and I think that she's second guessing her decision to bring me on this trip in the first place.
Do you think the queen chose you because of where you're going?
I didn't really think about that until just now, but probably, yeah. Probably she did. Again, I'm not a politician, but she certainly is.
What did you bring with you to protect the queen? I've been quartermaster at the castle, at the court, for 20 years now. More than anyone else, I have a sense of just how much invisible work goes into maintaining not just the trappings of a court, but the foundation of it in terms of where supplies are drawn from, what points along the way we need to make advance notice of our stay, and what other resources we'll need to draw on along the way. I have brought, in a very physical sense, the supplies that we will need, from food to armor to the ability to repair what we work, but also knowledge of some of the land we'll be passing through, although that is secondhand. I haven't ventured out myself, but I'm confident that I can use that to bring us safely through to the other side.
What brings out the queen's cruelty?
So soon.
No. I think I do. As the queen's son, I've been less than what she's wanted. Other people tell me she's a just and fair queen, and she's kind. But she does not extend any of that to me.
Who is the distant power you're traveling to, and why do they make you uneasy? Communication with the Red Kingdom ceased with one bloody messenger arriving, this soldier, who stepped to our door, and my queen called me, her shaman, to bring healing to this creature, who told of a queen they had abandoned. And from there, all communication stopped. We heard no word. Our ears and eyes inside the Red Kingdom went silent and dark. My scrying, my magics are blocked at the border. Still, we go there to see for ourselves what is happening, and I am blind.
Can you see other kingdoms?
Yes, I mean, within limited, the power is limited, but where there are things that fly and trees that breathe, there are ears and eyes to be harnessed.
How does the queen remind you of her status while on the journey? I'm in a very odd situation, as I said, where I, on the one hand, am very much in a position of trust within the queen's retinue, but also constantly feel like I'm being judged and punished for the fact that I had an entire life and a different queen before I met her. And so I think that she feels a particular need to remind me very frequently that I am now currently her subject, and that any other previous allegiances are not important. And she does this mostly by... I would have expected her to just make me do dumb bullshit. You know, like polishing swords or cutting trees or chopping wood. Ladies really love to watch me chop wood. I mean, and who wouldn't? Let's be real here. But no, mostly she likes to make me give bad news to other people, which is particularly, I don't know, I'm not really sure why she does this, as she needs people to trust me, which they definitely don't. And having me be her messenger of bad shit certainly doesn't help. But whenever she has anything unpleasant to tell somebody else, she sure does like to force me to do that. I have never been told explicitly what will happen if I don't do it, but I have some guesses.
Do you know who was captain of the guard before you?
The captain of the guard before me was a professional soldier, if there ever was one, but she was getting old, and she had been on the way toward finding a replacement, and I showed up at a convenient time. And while I do not think that she believes that I was a good replacement, she knows better than to question her queen, and whatever doubts she might have had were voiced in private. I was not there for that conversation, and then I'm here now. So I don't really know what happened there, but there's only one captain of the guard, and it's me, and the previous one, I think, lives on a farm somewhere.
Good for
Which,
her.
honestly, good for her.
Yeah.
She has some horses.
Sounds great. You arranged for the queen to be ambushed on this journey. What did they offer you? I want to hear you answer this question.
Oh. What did they offer me? They offered me knowledge and solitude. They offered me a place in which I would be held to no expectation, and I would be given access to all of the books that I wanted, and I could spend the rest of my life in relative peace without being associated with her or the kingdom or any sort of royal family.
Do you know who made the offer?
Yeah, and who are they that they could have access to this thing that they offer?
They are a distant kingdom, not so distant, but I've never been. They came to me and just dazzled me, just gave me a taste of what they had to offer. They told me stories of this grand library overlooking a beach by the coast near the ocean. That was all I needed.
There's a false rumor about you and the Queen back at the royal court. What is it? How did it start? I've been providing my services for generations to this royal family. And my face has not changed because I keep right with our gods. And the court thinks that I am going to make sure this queen also is as long-lived. But our gods forbid direct intervention in this. The queen will have her natural life. I will maintain the natural balance. But there are those who want to start fomenting darkness, making it seem like our gods and the power they provide are unnatural.
How do you maintain the natural balance?
Well, we allow things to pass as they will, and only intervene when the signs say that we should.
Do other people see you as a conduit for the gods, or?
We, of my order, try to maintain an ascetic lifestyle. We forego a lot of the luxuries and riches of the court. But just being in the court and being close to the royals may be elevating our position and make it harder for us to be seen as less than the people we serve, which is where we should be. We are of the earth.
Are you by any chance the one who would be pointing out and interpreting any signs that then are the determining whether or not you're interfering?
The signs come and we offer guidance as the gods offer us guidance.
Why are some others at the royal court jealous of your relationship with the queen? For all that she seems to like to torture me for her entertainment, the queen is very straightforward with me and very frank. I think probably because of the manner of my arrival, she understood that I didn't really have anything to lose, which is accurate. I would say that early in our relationship, I established a tone of irreverence in the way that we speak to each other, and that never really went away. So the two of us basically just talk to each other as people, even if she's making me eat shit. I don't get the sense that that is true of maybe anybody else, but certainly nobody that I know. And I think I took that for granted up until recently. Honestly, up until we've been on this trip when I'm having to be in a little bit more close quarters with everyone else. And I think everyone else has become a little bit more aware of just how much of a difference there is in the way that I speak to her and the way that they do. So I'm kind of reconsidering this tone that I've established, although I don't really know what I can do about it now without making it worse.
And this is different than the tone you had with your previous queen.
I think with the previous queen is a little bit more tongue-in-cheek. A little bit more of this little game of cat and mouse that we were playing.
A little bit tongue-in-tongue.
A little bit. No, that's what she wanted, wasn't it?
That's what she got.
Yeah. But now there's not even the pretense of politeness that there was before. I think with the old queen, we were performing the roles of I am your vassal and you are my lord type thing, and less so in this case. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, she's not really. I mean, she is practically speaking my queen, but is she really?
Great question. Can't wait to find out.
Glad you're leading the army.
Yes.
It's fine. I'm very reliable.
You think of someone in this retinue as the queen's favorite. Who? What makes you think this? Up until we started on this journey, I mostly knew the queen through her requests. And I feel like that's how I've gotten to know most people over time, is through a list of what they need in very, very practical, laid out terms. And there were always things on her list that I seemed like odd choices for her. Books that I knew she wouldn't read, maybe extra pairs of spectacles with magnification lenses. And I couldn't figure out where these were going until I met her son. But she never gives these gifts herself. I think they're always sent through intermediaries. So I might be the only person who sees the things that she is doing for him. And I don't know why she can't do them directly to him or give them directly to him for herself.
What did you bring with you that endangers the queen? Wait. I set up the ambush.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just making sure that I did get that question as well. I brought this enchanted token. I was given it as a gift, among with many others, from the messenger who confronted me about what was to come. He gave me books, jewels, and this one strange talisman that he said would lead them to us. I don't know how it works, but that's what he told me, and I've brought it along.
What does it look like?
It is made out of some opalescent stone. It has engravings on it that I don't read that are inlaid with gold, and a small piece of like fabric that is sort of hanging off of it.
And do you wear it?
No, I keep it in the inside of my vest pocket.
What do you usually do for the royal family? Why does that make you an unlikely choice for this journey? We see to the natural needs of the people, and you'd say, I guess, religious needs of the kingdom and the royal family in particular, interpreting signs, seeing the way forward, sending along information. We're not a vessel for the gods, but we are definitely practiced in the arts of reading the signs and using the magics. And usually we kind of stick close to home. Our reach is not far, except what comes to us from our sendings. And for the royals, we try to portend the health of their children, the likelihood of injury and damage from small things and small illnesses. And this, again, this sort of journey into darkness, into the unknown, is outside of my purview. Perhaps the queen has some attachment for me as a fatherly figure or something that I have tried to discourage, but still she wanted me here.
Do you prefer this queen to the previous one?
There have been so many. It's the perspective of which is which. I've loved them all in different ways, and I see the uniqueness in this queen, but it is a uniqueness. Every queen has had a uniqueness, and every queen has been worthy of
Your grace.
the love. Yeah.
What part of this journey will be the most difficult? How do you pull the rest of the retinue through it? I am in an interesting position because I think that I might be the only person, although it's hard to tell with this particular queen, who really understands probably how this is going to go. I think the part of this journey that's going to be the most difficult is when we cross the border and all the walls that have been kind of keeping us ignorant of what's going on the other side. We sort of pass through, and we, as a retinue, understand what I've understood for a while, which is that our previous queen might have died, but her hope of uniting the kingdoms did not. But she didn't leave behind a very good system for making that happen, and it seems like things didn't go super well while we were gone. And I think they might have gone a lot more poorly than anybody on this side understands. But I do know that my current queen very much wants to still make this happen. But when we cross the border, we're going to understand just the chaos. What happens to the Red Throne when nobody's on it? It's not good.
And do you know for sure that the Red Queen is dead?
I'd like to think that she would have let me know if she wasn't. I'll feel like a real ass if I've been sitting here while she's out there by herself. I'd like to think that she isn't dead, although as humiliating as that would be for me personally. As to what I think I'm going to do to pull the rest of the retinue through it, I think it's going to be being familiar with the way shit goes on the other side of the border, which is bad. Which is real bad. And I think I'm going to be a lot more useful than I have been up until this point when we get to the other side.
Do you think this journey was a good idea?
I think this journey was the only idea, from my perspective anyway. I mean, I told I told the Red Queen that I was going to take care of this. So I'm taking care of it. Here we are. Got our new queen. I got the Queen of Flowers with us. We're getting her to the border. That's what I said I was going to do. After that, that's the end of my promise.
What makes the queen ugly in your eyes? I'm trying to think about how this is different from the questions about her cruelty coming forward. I'm not as old as our shaman by any stretch of the imagination.
Who is?
Yeah. Who could possibly be? I've seen at least one other queen. And I think what I miss about that one is her pragmatism and her practicality. And I think there are some things queens cannot afford to be. And this one is a little bit idealistic for my tastes. I think that she has flung us into this expedition without a real clear goal or a real clear next step beyond getting to the border. I don't know how much of that is the influence of whatever the signs of the gods have told us, or this strange new captain whose ways are not our ways, but who seems confident that we should return to their kingdom. That's what gives me the most pause about this queen, is her willingness to believe that this will all work out.
What makes the queen beautiful in your eyes?
All these pairs are so good.
Yeah.
Thanks, shuffling.
The queen is most beautiful to me when I watch her at a distance, which I do quite often. She has united our nation in a way that has been gentle, and that is through her utmost belief in the gods, something that many of our people share. I've seen her be generous. Even now, I think she is trying to be generous by reaching out and in some way extending the relative peace that our kingdom has enjoyed to other people. I think that that's beautiful, despite me not believing in it.
You suspect this journey isn't about diplomatic negotiations. What else do you believe is going on, and why? So again, it's unusual that I would be brought along on this sort of mission. The royal son is with us. Again, we're being led by this strange soldier into a land that is closed to us. But does our queen hope to instill someone on the throne? Are we doing more than just learning and trying to broker a peace, or perhaps we're going there to claim the Red Kingdom for our own, and their gods are darker than ours?
There was someone else in this retinue you love beside the queen. How and why are you keeping it a secret? It kind of snuck up on me, as these things always seem to. But God damn it. Queen's kid, he's a good kid. I just like him. I mean, he's such a little nerd, and I just want to, shove him in a trunk sometimes. But he's a good kid, you know? I wish that he'd, get outside a little bit more, learn how to climb a fucking tree or something, but he's, a good kid, and he's really grown on me. I don't think he likes me at all, but that weirdly makes me like him more. This might be a systemic problem I should examine in my life. I can't hide the fact that I have some affection for this kid. He's a good kid. But I really want to be careful. There's something weird going on with him and his mom that I don't really understand. Again, I haven't been here that long, and I'm, again, not a politician by any means. And it feels dangerous to let anybody know, particularly her, how much I actually kind of like this kid. So I find myself kind of keeping him a little bit of a distance, which feels extra bad because I feel like sort of everybody's keeping him a little bit of a distance. And I wonder if there's some consequences to that, maybe? But I don't think I can be the person to fix this. I think it's a little too dangerous, especially because, I know that I just think he's a good kid, but also, the optics of it aren't great, right? Some rando shows up at the border covered in blood.
Show me your son.
Hello. Yeah, let me hang out with your child. You're the heir to your throne. So I don't think anybody's going to leave me alone with him, and I understand that. So I'm just going to have to let him be lonely. There's not really much I can do about it.
Do you ever see the queen and her son together?
Nope. Dinner? They eat dinner together sometimes, but I've never known them to spend any time alone together.
On either end of a really long table.
They speak at official functions when it's expected of them. She sends notes to him all the time. He addresses her formally at court, but I've never known them to spend time in private. I think I'm there most of the time that they're in the same room together.
The queen had you punished once. What about the memory of that will stay with you forever?
No. Roll up your sleeves, carry tragic character speech.
I was trying so hard not to. It's like, great, gonna be practical. I'm gonna get my hands dirty. It's gonna be great.
You could pass it on.
Yeah, I don't, but that's so much worse. Sorry, for our listening audience, I'm pointing at the sun and saying, that's worse.
The punishment could also be not a punishment as she sees it,
Oh, good framing.
like a boon
Right.
that,
Yeah.
that
Right.
you
I like
felt
that.
was like a punishment.
Let me think about that.
Middle management, less horses.
Right,
You know?
right. More promotion. Promotion failed upwards.
Yes.
But
But I like cooking.
there was a time when my work was much more to do with the surrounding countryside and making sure the greater balance of everyone had the seeds that they needed for the following year, that the granaries were stocked, and that no village was underfunded. The queen used to ride circuits around the area beyond her castle. I don't think she does that much anymore, and I'm not sure why. She hasn't done it much since the arrival of her son. I'm not clear on why exactly that is. But it was on one of those rides that she brought me with her. Not only brought me with her on the circuit ride, but brought me back to the castle, where I was informed that my work had been so effective that I would instead take over as the castle quartermaster, managing specifically the needs in going and outgoing of the court itself, which meant I would lose a hand in the bigger picture. She saw this as something that anyone would want, but I miss so dearly having a sense of what is happening beyond the castle walls. But I will always remember the way she looked when she informed me that I would be granted this gift, and I couldn't bear to disappoint her by saying no.
When did you know you would never forgive the queen, and why?
Oh, that's a really brutal one for you.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, why'd you plan that ambush, kid?
I would never forgive the queen.
It's my favorite book.
There were many times throughout my childhood that I felt like I had been slighted, but had that childlike understanding that maybe adults knew what was right and that perhaps I had the wrong idea of how the world worked. There was a time when I was a teenager, my mother, being the religious or superstitious woman, however you may call it, that she is, had a dream. And she wouldn't tell me what that dream was, but she locked me in my room for 3 days, didn't let anyone speak to me, and while there were guards stationed outside of my room, and they heard me, no one came to my aid. She never told me why she did that. The shaman gently mentioned that it is because she had received a vision, and we've never spoken about it. I can never forgive her for it.
How old are you?
Early 20s.
And how long ago was this?
I was probably a 17-year-old.
Oh, that's rough.
Yeah.
Best time for not forgiving.
Also for, I'm not, how dare you?
I'm getting a lot of interview questions here. What is something you do for the royal family that has prepared you well for this journey?
Tell me about a time when.
I'm too industrious.
What is one of your flaws? I'm just too organized. I watch for the things that other people miss. I've been around long enough that I've seen patterns in the natural flow of things, and part of what we're trained to do is look for those patterns, recognize them, and look when there are ripples in the stream, when something is a pattern that is not common arises. And so as much as this is outside of my purview, as much as traveling into this distant and dark land is outside of what I understand, there are still patterns of life and the world that are revealing themselves. And so I watch.
Do you have methods for communicating with the gods, or?
Just ritual sacrifice.
Okay.
Over, no.
Great.
Usual.
I think there are rituals that require burning, inhaling different powder, the essences and smokes from powders. So it's this ritualistic entering different mental states by taking on different. I mean, just getting really high.
Sure. Is this a public thing or a private thing?
It's private.
Okay.
The the whole ritual,
Mom, don't
how
come
you
in.
prepare everything is very. It's kept very close and secret, and then these powders and these herbs and these things that we collect and contain and whatever are all secreted and sacrosanct.
Have you ever received signs from gods you didn't know?
Since we entered this new land, there have been dark dreams. When I do inhale the smokes, the visions are fuzzier than they are when we're back in our own land.
Oh, wow. Okay. You have a personal connection to the land you were currently traveling through.
True.
What makes you want to stay, and why don't you? You'd think that trees would just be trees, you know? Like, I didn't really think a huge amount about trees until the last few years. And I don't know if it's some kind of magic bullshit. This isn't really my department, but the woods feel super different now that we've crossed the border. I think that I assumed that it would just be sort of like a psychological thing, like I'd know in my brain that we were back in my old country again, but it just immediately felt different. Trees feel different, air smells different, rabbits are different, everything's different. And I just physically really didn't realize how much I missed it until I was back here. The water tastes better, the food tastes better, the accents of the random people we run into on the road, which aren't very many people, let me tell you, and they don't really want to talk to us very much. It feels incredibly good to be home. I don't think I realized how much I missed it until right now. But I can't stay here, regardless of what happens. The shit that I've done and that's happened to me is going to follow me for the rest of my life. And I might have made a new life for myself in this new kingdom, but I'm never going to be welcome back here again. I know how things are in the Red Kingdom, and it's over for me.
Have you been recognized since returning?
It's hard to tell, because I don't think they'd want me to know.
Do you look the same?
My face is a little bit more fucked up than it was when I left, although I'd like to think that doesn't
You
hurt
got hot
anything.
people scars.
Yeah.
Still
high. It's been some time. I'm a little older. I'm a little rougher around the edges, but I'm pretty distinctive looking. I'm real tall. If we come across somebody on the road who's met me before, they're definitely going to recognize me. It's just a matter of time.
What do you do for the queen that no one else can do? I want to hear you answer this question.
Aww.
It doesn't have to be a positive answer.
Yeah. I can talk about our father. He was a very private man, not unlike herself and myself, frankly. Since he died, she hasn't wanted to talk about him much, but the few times that she does call me to her quarters, it's to reminisce. Usually it's after a long meditation where she's feeling vulnerable and perhaps nostalgic, but he was one of the only people that we shared and loved in equal measure.
How did he die?
It was sudden. I was 16.
Oh no.
The fact that no one predicted it, the gods sent no message, and his family was as shocked as everyone else, and it just happened, and it was shocking. And I think she did a good job of making the kingdom feel like she hadn't changed, but she had.
Did that moment with the dream, with you being locked up, did that occur sometime after your father died?
Yes. Yeah.
All right. What brings out the queen's kindness? The queen loves the nature of our kingdom. She loves to be out amongst the people, but mostly when the people are tilling the land, when they're working with the nature that is abundant around them. That is when she glows and comes to life, and her strength is there, and she softens, and her weariness falls away when she's there amongst the bounty that is the nature of our kingdom. And I've seen her smiling, something that she does not do very often since her husband's death. Whenever she returns from a ride within the kingdom, her decisions, her choices have a softness to them. Even the hard choices that she makes, you can tell that they don't weigh as much on her, that she feels stronger in those choices.
The queen trusts you, but no one else in the royal court does. Why?
Great question.
I also feel very pointed.
I mean, well, it's obvious why nobody else in the royal court trusts me, given my history. I don't really know why the queen trusts me. I think probably because, actually, no, I do know. She trusts me because I am transparent as glass. She has no reason to not trust me. I basically tell her everything I gave up a long time ago, trying to do anything else. She's actually weirdly better at seeing through me than the old queen does, which is disconcerting as shit, let me tell you. It's more important than ever right now that she does trust me, now given the circumstances that we are in. And I come to her with everything immediately. I sealed the deal on that particular arrangement between the two of us that we'd been kind of circling for the year or so that we've known each other. Actually, just the last couple of days after we crossed the border, because when I got a note, they got left in my sleeping bag, which, I mean, I had set the sleeping bag up for a night. I went to take a piss, and I came back, and there was a note on it. That was not a fun experience. That person had clearly just been lurking in the trees waiting for me to go out, and I definitely immediately recognized the handwriting because I've been looking at it for years. Yeah, I handed our new queen a note from the old spy master, and all it said was "Welcome home." And I showed it to her immediately. And we both had a fun night together, the two of us. And I don't really like that note, but I definitely think that the new queen definitely is going to trust me going forward.
The queen touched you once. What about the memory of that will stay with you forever? It's mean to get this twice in a row. Yeah. So I asked the queen once about things she ordered that were part of the general requisition that I could tell were clearly for her son. And, I have kids who are all since grown, but I know what it is to have children and want to protect them. And I wanted to know why she had stopped. He was in his late teens, but he didn't seem like he loved those things any less. And I wanted to know why the special request had stopped. She was so sad when she took my hand, and she didn't answer me. But I remember the hopeless way that she held on to me, and it made me want to do anything I could to stop whatever it was she feared from happening.
So sad.
That's so fucked up.
How dare you?
Love mess. I just love mess.
Nobody's doing well.
We're fine.
Everything's fine. Yeah.
When was the last time the queen showed you real kindness?
Hey.
Oh, God.
Hey.
Wow.
What is this? I kind of want to pass.
When the queen's son was born, it was a difficult birth. And part of our duties and our roles as healers is to shepherd new life into the world as well as see lives out. And the queen's birth was a hard one. Her body was in a lot of pain after, and we did what we could to soothe that pain. When she first held her son, that the pain seemed to slip away from her. It went out of her mind, and you could see the joy in her face and the love. And her husband doted on her, and there was a happiness all around the kingdom and the court at that time. And I had to deliver the darker news, what the visions and our own knowledge of healing had shown, that this would be the queen's only child. And I had to come into this ball of joy and deliver this weapon, this wound. And I saw some pain there in the queen's eyes, but she took my hands and thanked me and then embraced me and continued to have that look when she looks at me now, that I will give her the hard truth when needed, and that was part of the healing.
She's a nice queen, guys.
Yeah, she's okay. All right, I got this one last time, so I'm passing it on.
Oh, I'm also going to pass.
Okay. Oh.
Oh,
You can also pass. This doesn't have to be ganging up.
And we
I
can-
love that we're hot potatoing.
we can
Yeah,
also,
we can
like,
slap it down and draw a new
if you
one.
want it to
Yeah.
go, you can just exit out and we can have Ali draw a new card. And
I would X this out, perhaps. At least for me.
yeah, we'll just exit
Okay.
out, and Ali, if you want
Yeah.
to just draw a new one.
Yeah. Do we want to tell people listening to this which card it was? It was you were considered beautiful by almost everyone you meet. How does the queen make you question their perception? And I feel like I already had my hot soldier moment. I'm done.
Well, I'm just very hot still.
I continue to be.
I love to be negged.
If anything, more hot. The queen thinks more highly of you than you do of yourself. How do you know this? I actually do genuinely want the quartermaster to answer this one.
Oh. So there are a lot of ways to express trust, but I think the one that means the most to me is the degree to which the queen has trusted me with what she needs. At first in a very clear lists of supplies for the castle and maybe special treats. Once in a while she'll have a preference for a coffee or a tea. So I've come to know her a little bit more in that way. She's also started to trust me with talking through larger concerns that are on her mind. And she keeps these abstract. And I never really feel like I have a lot to contribute to these. I can talk in a very practical way about the difficulty of the terrain that we're moving through in this retinue and the challenges that we're facing in terms of this game is not the game we're used to. This terrain is not what our mounts are bred to ride on. So there are this many more injuries that we have to heal and this many fewer meals that the guards can share. I think she gets a lot of me being able to listen to her. I didn't think that was something special about me, but she keeps coming back to talk, and it makes me glad. I'm worried about her.
I'm very worried about her.
I like to pass this on.
You are considered ugly by almost everyone you meet. How does the queen make you question that perception? We are meant to, through our trainings and teachings, we slightly poison ourselves and almost brine and pickle ourselves with the powders and the lifestyle that we maintain, our aesthetic lifestyle. And so I've lived many ages past what is normal for a human, and so my body does not move or resemble that as clearly of a human's body. We try to wear large, voluminous robes to hide our strange gait and the twisted visages that we have. It is important for the queen that I keep my hood pulled back when I speak to her, and it is rare. There have been queens who cannot look upon us directly, and it is something I value.
When you say us, is that the royal we? Are there other
There
clerics?
are other like people of this ascetic order. Yeah.
Yeah. You're just the top one.
I'm the one at court. So yeah.
She wants to see your pickled face.
Yeah.
Beautiful pickled
New
face.
spa treatment, brining.
we look like little blue children. It's like Akira.
In big robes.
There's like, oh yeah, that's why I said
Three
we.
toddlers in a
There's
trench
three.
coat. Yep.
That's the we. I get to be on top.
Oh boy. What a horrible image.
What promise did the queen make to you before this journey? And do you think that she'll keep it? When I left the Red Queen in the forest, I promised her that I was going to take care of the Red Kingdom. I promised her that I was going to make this shit happen that she wanted to do, even if I didn't think it was the right thing to do. And I said that I was going to do it. And that's why I left. That's the only reason I left her there, is because I promised her that I was going to make this happen. And this new queen has promised me in turn that she's going to take care of the Red Kingdom. She's told me that she's going to make sure that our people are fed, that the kingdom is taken out of whatever bullshit it's gotten itself into since I left. She promised me, and she seems competent, and I can believe that she can do it. And I have no idea. I have no idea if she's going to do it or not. I don't really have any option other than to believe her, but honestly, I don't know.
Did the Red Queen have any last words for you as you were leaving?
Get the fuck out of here.
Great. Love it. Perfect.
I mean, honestly, pretty much in keeping with my relationship with her.
Checks out.
I was taking a little too long to leave.
The Queen sometimes shows interest in your personal life. How do you respond to that, and why? Hesitantly at first, but when she asks about how my family is doing, I'm a widow, but I do have children. I have no daughters, some other children, a couple of sons. And when I tell her how they're doing, all of them, I wonder how much it's an analog for her to the rides through the kingdom that she used to take, and how much is a genuine interest in my family. But I love them. We've kept up with letters, even though we've now been on the road for, I sometimes forget how long. It feels like quite a long while. And especially since we've moved into this other land, I feel like I don't have a good sense of how long it's really been, which is strange. And the letters haven't come as frequently, but I'm always, always happy to talk about my connections to home and, the farms that some of my children are building and the shops that they have in towns. One of them is in the Royal Guard, but she rarely asks about them, and I don't volunteer much because I know that's a dangerous life. I'm always happy to chat, but when I ask her questions in return, or I usually don't. The couple of times that I've tried, I've been politely led down another path.
What do you do for the queen that anyone else can do, and why does she make you do it? I feel like sometimes the queen makes me the town crier. It is belittling and embarrassing. I know she feels the need to assert that I am a person of importance in this kingdom. I've never been a good public speaker. And frankly, she's not much of one either. So I don't know why she expects me to be. She's constantly making vague statements and then having other people give the big factual announcements. And so when I bumble in front of the town square, just not remembering the order of the words that I'm supposed to say, it sucks. It merely underscores my deficiencies, and it does that for her. It does that for the entire kingdom. But she makes me do it anyway, even though I am grown.
How do you let her know that you don't enjoy doing this? Like, do you let her know?
I don't. But she knows. It has been very clear. And also, I'm bad at it. Anyone else could do it.
Have you ever tried to get out of it, like order someone else to do it?
No.
Just buckle under.
It's not a way to be. And also that would require some sort of conversation or conflict.
Oh, man. I want to ask a conflict reminded me.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know, have you received any kind of signal from your object?
None that I can tell. The temperature changed slightly when we went across the border, but there's been nothing since.
The queen is responsible for the death of someone you loved. Who and what happened? We are not always ascetics. There was a time when I was a young man, a person living in the world, a simple person who had not yet been called to this practice. And that was a time when I had a family, when I was just a person working the fields and being out in the world. And when I left and took on the robes, my family saw me off, and it was a good time for me to go. And I could not have connection with my family directly, but I kept tabs on them. I couldn't guide their hands when the great-great-granddaughter decided she was going to foment some slight revolution and found herself at the queen's mercy. I had to stand beside my queen and watch as the last of my line was taken from this world.
Did the queen know that she was related to you?
No, and I didn't really tell her as much.
That's probably a good call. There is a part of you that does not want peace in this land. Why are you attached to the war? I answered this last time, and I feel like my answer is the same. So
We can also exit if nobody's feeling it, or change it to you still like pizza in this land.
Who doesn't want pizza? I don't know that I have an interesting answer. Does anyone feel like they have an interesting answer to this one?
No, yeah, I'm okay. Well, I mean, I could
All right.
answer it, but I think I'm okay to pass on it.
You saved the queen's life once. How? I mean, I've practically speaking saved life a bunch of times because I'm a fucking captain of the guard. That's my job. I think the only interesting time was actually when I first showed up. I showed up in her court. She was still trying to figure out what to do with me. Everybody was very upset by my appearance at court, both because I was literally covered in blood, which does not set things off to a good start, but also because symbolically my showing up in the way in which I did not bode very well for the political landscape that we were all operating in, let's just say. So let's just say that court was somewhat agitated by me even being in the throne room at all. And some asshole decided he was going to come at me. And in doing so, he didn't do a very good job. You know, idiots with swords who don't know how to use them. So he actually ran right past me and ran right at her. And so I had to go from avoiding being stabbed by some moron to keeping him from accidentally stabbing his own fucking queen. Which was, like, in retrospect, pretty hilarious, but at the time was definitely not funny at all. So I saved her life from her own fucking courtier. He's dead now.
Did you kill him?
I did not kill him because politically at the time, I couldn't be the one to behead a minor noble, but he definitely did. I think, honestly, probably I wouldn't be where I am today if I hadn't done that in that particular moment in time. So thanks, idiot, I guess, for getting myself on the right foot. That certainly set the tone for my relationship with the current queen.
The queen gave you a compliment once. What was it, and why have her words stayed with you? She told me that I see things more clearly than I know. And I think at first I took it on the surface level of, I am good at my job. Have kept, at first, a large swath of the countryside, and then the castle and its surrounding courts running relatively smoothly. A couple of, lesser shortages, but no real famine for a long time at this point. But this wasn't, she didn't say this after we had been talking of the supply train. We had been talking about the emotional tone of the camp and how our journey was going. And I had been chatting with some of the folks in the guard. People were worried about the signs that they were receiving or the lack thereof. I haven't heard from the shaman. They wouldn't speak to me directly, but people have been having strange dreams. But it wasn't the dreams that bothered me. It was how lackadaisical, how lackluster everyone seemed of just, it's been bad. But the reaction seemed a little off. And that stuck with me.
When was the last time the queen hurt you?
Oh, no.
I feel like I could answer it, and then also it just seems heavy-handed at this point, no?
I'm allergic to black licorice, Mom.
You know this.
Also, I mean, it could have been very recent.
Yeah.
You must have been talking about things that happened to you a while ago.
Right.
That's true. The last time that she hurt me, the last time that we had dinner together, I dared to ask her how she was. She looked pale. She looked unrested. And while usually we just listen to the musicians, quietly enjoy our food, I felt that maybe there was something paining her and that foolishly maybe I could relieve her in some way. And she looked at me in a way that she never has before. I think even though our relationship has been strained at best, there was always this... She looked at me as if I were someone that she knew, and this time I felt like there had been a barrier that had come up. And maybe it was the way that I asked. Maybe it was the way that I've been behaving these past weeks on the road. She told me that I should know how she is, and left, and we haven't spoken since.
Do you still want the ambush to happen?
I want a life away. I don't know what the rest of it means.
Ooh, here we go. Queen is under attack. Do you defend her? So, the dreams have been getting particularly bad lately, and the visions from the gods just have not come. I was awakened from a dream, sweating, and my heart racing like it hasn't done in decades. Whispers of dark things that I should do, things I should do to the queen and the people around me, coming from voices outside of our pantheon. And I was awakened by an attack. And I raced outside and saw our queen besieged and readied what I had on hand. I threw my powders in their faces. I wrapped them up in my robe. I threw myself in front of a wounding, a killing blow, and let it take me and my experiences from this world rather than let the queen die, as may have been natural.
Man, I really am an idiot. I spent this whole trip worrying about the Red Queen, worrying about the old spy master, worrying about the retinue, worrying about the new queen, worried about all these things. And I managed to not worry about the one thing I should have been worrying about. When the queen was attacked, I wasn't with her. I had been sent on some fucking errand or another. I don't even remember what it was anymore. So I wasn't with her. I had to make a very fast decision about what I was going to do, because she was all the way on the other side of camp, and her son's tent was right where I was, and I decided that I was going to go and check on him first, because I decided that's what she would have wanted me to do, was to secure her son and her heir first, and then worry about her. And he wasn't there. He wasn't there, and so I ran to go and defend her, but by the time I got there, it was too hard to get to her. I couldn't see her. There was all the other soldiers. And then I did finally see him, because I saw him on a horse riding away over the hills. I mean, I did defend her eventually. A little late. And I don't know, I'm a fucking idiot. Worrying about all the wrong things.
You survived.
I don't know, did I?
I don't know.
So I'm not a warrior. Maybe a couple of decades ago I could have managed a sword, but those days are well behind me. And when the attack started, it seemed like the queen knew something was coming before the noises ever reached us. She took my hand and told me to take 2 horses and go to her son. So I did. And when I got to his tent, asked him what was going on. He didn't speak to me. So I handed him the reins for one of the horses, and then I rode away.
I knew it was going to happen. The talisman had been emitting this energy for a time now. I didn't know the exact moment, but when the quartermaster showed up with a horse, of course, I knew what was going to happen, or what was happening. And I made it about 4 minutes away before turning back, and I heard the cries of people that I've spent my entire life around and revering and admiring from afar. And when I came back, the caravan was decimated, and there was barely anything to weep over, but I did. Fun time. Fun time.
So there's a couple things you can do. We can just let it lie there, which is all good. We could also, if anyone wants to like tell a truth about either of the kingdoms or one of their characters, to something that like they want to, just like a could be big, it could be little. If anyone feels like there's a truth that they would want to tell about either of the 2 sets of queens or retinue or kingdoms or any kingdoms involved, we can do that too. But otherwise, feel free to let it lie.
I do, but I don't want to go first.
I would need to think for a minute
Yeah.
to see if I have anything.
Nothing jumps to mind, unfortunately.
All right, well, I'll cue off one then.
Yeah.
So when the historians look back on this time of war, the kingdoms, the machinations, the queens and kings that rose and fell, there are a few moments where the kings and queens would travel out from behind the walls and into the world that they had set aflame and try to make change. And often it became clear that there was little that they could directly do to change the tides that they had set in motion.
I've heard it said that though the caravan was in large part destroyed, there were some survivors, and though the sun did not see them on returning because the forest opened up for them and they walked away.
When people talk about this particular time, particularly these particular set of kingdoms, they talk a lot about how the feeling of the Red Queen in particular having wanted to break out of the continuity of her own kingdom, and then this other neighboring queen wanting to continue with this hope of uniting the 2 of them. at the end of the day, there ended up being this feeling, and maybe some people just think it's superstitious and some people don't, that in a way the kingdoms themselves had an idea of what kind of places they were. And there was only so much that a few individual people could do to break out of that. The Red Kingdom wanted to be a place of chaos and death, and the neighboring kingdom was flawed in thinking that it could absorb that into itself. It was a more peaceful place, it had a more calmer center, but it just couldn't, those people could not survive outside of the world they had made for themselves, and the Red Kingdom was not interested in being infected by the more peaceful ways of the neighboring kingdoms. And some people think it's stupid to think that kingdoms have an opinion about how they want to be ruled, but then, you know, as I said, the forest did open itself up to accept the survivors of that battle, because I guess it was done with them.
The prince fled back to his kingdom and tried to rebuild it without the queen, and never told anyone about what he had done.
With that, our story ends. We will return again with a new tale to spin to dare to entertain. I was one of your players, John Holt. You can find me on Twitter at Lord Joho and on Instagram at board_ghost. Allie, where can people find you?
I am on Twitter and Instagram as Ali Wilgus. That's ALIWYLGUS. And you can find more about my books and comics at AlisonWilgus.com, including my brand new book, Cronin Volume 2, which comes out on September 10th, or came out on September 10th, and includes a 2-part time travel adventure that I'm very excited about.
And Carrie, where can people find out about you?
You can find me online on social media at Carrie Draws. That's CareyDraws, or at carriedraws.com. And you can find out more about the books on which I'm the co-adapter and cartoonist, the Adventure Zone graphic novel series, at theadventurezonecomic.com.
Right, and Christina, where can people find you?
You can see my website is cdacanay.com, DACANAY, and on Instagram at ohChristina.
All right. Well, thank you all for coming out and playing for the Queen. We got 2 big stories in. Fantastic queening.
Drama, high drama.
I have a question. I'm trying to decide if the soldier should have lived and gone back with the son and also never told anybody what happened. I'm just thinking of what's more satisfying
Probably
conclusion
go off to a
this.
third kingdom.
Yeah. I mean, there's that,
She just
there's
fucks
that
off
third
again.
kingdom attack that we never
Yeah.
really heard about.
Yeah.
That's
Just
for
leave
this squeakle.
Just leave it a mystery.
Stop it.
I won't. I'm sorry. The compulsive writer/editor in me is like, God, how can we really just
Tie a bow on this.
just tie a bow on this?
Don't
Anyway,
leave
sorry.
it open.
Okay.
We know.
Like an open wound.
All right. So to find out more about the players and engine in our story, go to boardghost.com, and you'll also find that info in our story note or show notes. You can attempt to pierce the veil and contact us on Twitter at BoardGhostWorld. Shout out through the ether if you have desires we can fulfill. You can, let's see. We'd like to thank Pat Couples for our theme song and interlude music. You can find more about Pat at patcouples.tumblr.com or on his band's website, hotelsandhighways.com. If you're not alone in the void, share our stories. The more they are consumed, the truer they become.
Dying don't agree with me.